Hi, this is Elizabeth Clare Brewington. I am the producer of Brightside channel, which is Brightside Global Trade TV and a podcast. We also have an inbox magazine, and a new directory for those of you who want to connect with some of the people that you're watching. So Colonel Donna Four has served in 3 wars. And as you know, she's a decorated officer and she has served this country. And she continues to serve us each month. She works very hard to do these presentations for us, that to empower us. Now, we always talk about finance and how to become wealthy and how to move your businesses forward. And that is really one of the most important aspects is to be insured. And so I'll let her tell you about what she does, and we really love her, and she does a lot of great stuff in the community, and she's always here with us on our show, and she is our sponsor too for tonight. So thank you, Donna, and I will share your slides while you introduce yourself.
Well, thank you, Claire. I appreciate that really generous introduction. I did serve in the U.S. Air Force for 30 years, retired as a colonel. There's other vets here on the call, by the way. Reginald, of course, mentioned he's an Army vet. Harold's a veteran. Actually, Jackie, who had to go take care of her mother, she's a military spouse. She met her husband when he got stationed in the Air Force in England and brought her back to America. So there's quite a few. And Sergeant Lem was here, Claire, but I think he had to jump off. But he's a junior ROTC instructor right there in Goldsboro. So we have a lot of military related connections here on the call tonight. Did I miss any other veteran or did I get them all? I'm trying to see who's still here.
But you did a
I
really
think
good job.
that's it.
Thank
Yeah.
you for that. Thank you for
So,
that. Yeah.
well, it's almost Memorial Day. So, and let me explain something about Memorial Day versus Veterans Day. Okay, so Memorial Day, in case you're not sure, that's for honoring the fallen, right? So don't go up to a veteran and say, thank you for your service on Memorial Day. It would be more appropriate to ask, is there someone I can pray for or honor, that you knew that's no longer here? Because really it's to pray and honor the service of all those fallen people that went before us, right? Now, Veterans Day is different. That's for the living veteran and the people still in active duty, but Memorial Day is to honor the fallen. If you want to do that in a simple way, just pray for all those families that lost their loved ones. If you want to be a little bit more active, you could go to a veteran cemetery or any cemetery that has veterans graves and just walk among the graves and pray for those people that paid the ultimate price for our freedom. So that's one way you can honor Memorial Day rather than just have a cookout. You can do something to actually get involved in what the day really means. So I'll be probably moving between about 3 or 4 different events that day because all the American Legions and Veterans of Foreign War Post have some kind of an event on that day. And I'm a member of several of them, so I'll be moving around that day. But I did serve actually in Goldsboro. I know some people on the call are from Goldsboro or in North Carolina, at Seymour Johnson. I also served at Pope Air Force Base in North Carolina, which is near Fort Bragg. So I have a lot of roots there in North Carolina. And also I met my late husband there and, really fell in love with the state. And if I hadn't been dragged back to Virginia, I probably would have stayed there. But I went all over the world, Africa, Middle East, of course, Central and South America when we were fighting drug wars. Spent a lot of time down there. Really difficult assignments. Sometime in Asia, I didn't get to spend as much time over there as I'd hoped. And then, of course, all over Europe. Went to Iceland, which I can highly recommend going there. It's a very interesting place to visit. And I love Spain. I don't know if Jaime's still on the call, but Jaime, Spain is a beautiful place. And you're very lucky to have those roots there with your family. So definitely would encourage everybody on the call to go to Spain as well. It's a beautiful, beautiful country and beautiful people as well. But now I transitioned. I retired from the military, and now I have my own business with Mutual of Omaha. I love what I do, just like Reginald was saying. Veterans like to continue serving in some way. So we've served the nation, but now we kind of want to serve our local communities and dig into the problems and the challenges and see if we can help people. So that's the way we look at service. After we take the uniform off, we we transitioned from serving the nation to now serving our community. So one of the things I've talked about in the past, but I've put together a new set of slides. This is a short presentation. It's not going to last long, but I want it to be very interactive. So when something comes up, either stop me or hold your question to the end and we'll answer any questions you have. What I'm on a mission to do this year is to ensure that everybody is ready for their retirement, right? I have to admit that even with all the, opportunities I had to understand my retirement, the day I walked out of the Pentagon for the last time, I was still confused about my retirement, right? I mean, I knew I was getting a pension, but everything else that went with retirement, I was really fuzzy about. And I'm sure Reginald and Harold and others would say, yeah, it's a big transition and you don't really feel ready. We don't have to go through life unprepared for retirement, right? The first day you go to work, that very first job, I don't care if it's at McDonald's or at a company that's, a lot bigger and more complicated, right? You should always start saving for retirement the first minute you have that first job, regardless of what it is. Even if you're just mowing lawns in your neighborhood, take some of that money, right? And put it somewhere where it's safe in a bank account or some kind of account where it can grow income. And I do these presentations for adults, and I have a version that's good for children as well. So if you'd like your children or people you know that are younger to hear this, we can put together something similar that's more appropriate at the younger level. But it's important that everybody starts saving retirement at an early age. I can't tell you how many people I've met that have kind of life has kind of gotten complicated and they weren't able to put enough money away. And now they're 5 years from retirement and they want to magically create a retirement plan. It's hard to do that. It really is. So it's important to start early. Now here's another pitfall that some people went into with their retirement plans. Something happened, something bad in life happens. They've got that 401k sitting and they go, the only way to get out of this jam is I've got to liquidate my 401k, cash it in, and use it to take care of this mishap, right? The only challenge with that is if you touch a 401k or any retirement plan before you're 59 and a half, there are, of course, taxes and then there's penalties. So be careful when you're going through something like that to avoid as much as possible trying to liquidate your retirement plan, because not only are you going to be taxed and have these additional fees ascribed to that situation, but you're robbing your future self of any retirement, right? So you'll have to keep working longer and longer just to make up for the fact that you had to, liquidate your 401k a little early. So what we're going to talk about today is what we call the 3 buckets of retirement, right? The first bucket, so imagine that this is a bucket that you're putting money into, right? Is the taxable bucket. The taxable bucket includes things that probably most of you have or have had in the past, right? It's your standard checking account at the bank, maybe a savings account at the same bank. It's your certificates of deposit, right? CDs, and it's also money market accounts. Now, these are great, right? But again, it's a taxable source of retirement money, right? And traditionally, with some of these, particularly with the savings and the bank accounts, right? So, who wants to tell me what's the problem with a bank account, a regular checking account or a savings account? What's the issue with that? Anybody want to say something? Well, they're safe. They're very, very safe. Well, I mean, there have been some bank problems here recently, but traditionally they're very safe. But the interest rate is very, very, very low, right? For most of these, they're below 1%. Occasionally, you might find one that's higher, right? But for the most part, it's safe, but it's not productive for you and your money, right? Money market accounts and CDs are a little bit better, right? But for the most part, these are not really a great place to grow a lot of money for retirement. It's a great place to put something aside for an emergency. Use these things for retirement. I mean, not for retirement funds, but for emergency funds. Don't use them for, retirement. They're meant to, put some money away safely with a low, slow rate of growth that maybe you can depend on later. If God forbid, something happens and you've got to pull some money out to take care of a big bill or like I said, some kind of emergency. So that's your first bucket. So think of these as actual buckets of money, right? The next bucket, and Claire, you can go ahead and advance to the next slide. The next bucket is so we have the taxable bucket, right? That money's all taxed. Now we have the tax deferred bucket. Now, most of you that have a job or have had one in the past that had one of these opportunities, you had some kind of tax deferred opportunity with your position with your job that you could, have one of these opportunities, right? You have an IRA. A lot of people have 401ks with a standard corporation. Some people have a tax sheltered annuity. That's what a TSA plan is. Um, TSAs and 403Bs are very similar, if not the same thing, but they serve similar purpose anyway. Now, TSP, if you were in federal government employment or the military, you have what's called a TSP, a thrift savings plan. I had one of those myself. It came upon the scene kind of late in my career, so I didn't contribute a lot to it because there just wasn't enough time. There was only a few years when they implemented the TSP for me to put money into it. Now, here's the challenge with a lot of these opportunities. The money's taken out before it's taxed. So that's great, right? It's going to this tax deferred account for you to grow from now until the time you retire and beyond, right? You don't have to touch these until you're in your 70s. So that's a good thing, right? So sitting there growing and growing and you're enjoying the rate of return. Well, at least maybe not right now. Maybe right now your plans aren't doing as well as they used to. But typically in a good economy, you can trust these things to grow at a very good, depending on how you built your plan or how your financial planner built your plan. They can be very aggressive, medium aggressive, or very safe, right? So one of the challenges with a tax deferred plan is you have to assess your level of risk, right? How much risk do I want to have with this plan? Do I want to put it into a portfolio that includes things that might be risky, such as stocks and bonds, or do I want to put more things within this bucket, right, that are a little more safer? So that's a conversation you can have with me or some other financial person that you get advice from. But keep in mind, this is going to eventually be taxed, right? So all this money you're accruing, you're building your great 403B, your 401k. By the way, 403Bs are traditionally something you see that teachers have. A lot of state governments offer 403Bs as the retirement plan for teachers or anybody that's in the education realm. It could be colleges, public schools, anybody in the education world typically will get offered a 403B. I even had one and still have it because I worked at a government think tank up in DC for years. So I even have a 403B myself from serving in that organization. So they're very common. And again, it relies on you either having a good advisor to work with and you're keeping up with things and you're meeting regularly and you're making tweaks and adjustments to these plans to make sure that they're growing as much potential for you. Because if you just walk away from them and just kind of go on with life and forget about them, you may find out later that there were some small adjustments you could have been making over the years to improve your rate of return, right? And you look back and you go, oh, I should have sat down with my advisor at least once a year, if not maybe more frequently. I would submit, if you have an advisor you're working with right now on any of these kinds of plans, please meet with them regularly because in the economy we have today with the fluctuations we're having, you need to maximize every potential change you can make to ensure that your portfolio is balanced, that there's some risk in there, but not a lot. The closer you get to retirement, you need to make sure that most of your investments inside these plans are in safer, more stable opportunities. You don't want to be facing retirement, right? Say you're in your 60s and you're a few years from retirement, and suddenly you realize your portfolio is up and down. It's like a roller coaster because you've got a lot of that money invested in things that are volatile, right? So the closer you get to retirement, you've got to have more meetings with your advisor or whoever you rely upon for financial advice to ensure that things are in good order before you jump off and actually enter retirement. Another thing I often hear people say, well, Donna, I don't have to worry so much about my 401k. I know it's not as good as it should be, but I'll have Social Security to rely upon. I'm sure I'm going to get a big check in Social Security and that's going to take care of this issue I have with my 401k. That's fine. Social Security, we've all paid money into it. Everybody on this call has paid money into Social Security. In 2033, which is only 10 years from now, right? There's going to be at least some level of review of the Social Security system to figure out what's going to go on with it in the future. As you know, it's no secret the money that has been poured into those Social Security system has been used for other things over the years that the government needed. They've kind of raided different parts of the government's funds to take care of other things, right, that we didn't even know about. And now the Social Security fund is also one of those that's getting a little wobbly. Now, when the government makes an adjustment with a big system like this, which is Social Security is a massive system, right? People rely upon it for their retirement. Um, the most, the least that they'll do is just perhaps reduce your payment a little bit, or they may extend the year that you can, fully retire, right, beyond what it currently is, so that people will stay working longer and more funds will go into the system to keep it afloat. But even that scenario has some problems with it. So if you think you're going to make up some losses you had in the 401k this year or last year, any year you took a downturn with Social Security, think again. That system will have to be, overhauled at some point, whether it's 2033, 2034, 2035. We're heading for a cliff with Social Security is what I'm trying to tell you. And the sooner you start improving your portfolio in other areas besides Social Security, and if you've got a 401k that you're nervous about, or any kind of 403b that you're nervous about, you've got to be more diligent about watching it and getting in front of your advisor, whoever you're working with on these plans, because the sooner you do that, the less, I guess, your anxiety will be when you do finally retire. You realize, I didn't put enough away, and now I'm concerned about my retirement. I may end up working longer than I wanted to, right? Or having less of a retirement. Like, say your big plan was, I'll leave my current location. I'm going to retire at the beach. I'll have a beach house. I'll have my dream life. And then you realize your retirement that is not going to get you there. You didn't make those changes, or didn't have those discussions, or weren't able to make the minor adjustments to your plan that enabled you to do that, or your Social Security check was less than you anticipated. So these are tax deferred buckets. They're great. We all have one, but sometime you have to pay the piper, which is the federal government, right? Now, the last slide is something that maybe some of you have never heard about, or you've heard about it, but you didn't comprehend it within these three buckets. So we've talked about bucket one, that was taxable, right? That's your CDs, your money market accounts, and your savings accounts. We just talked about the tax deferred bucket, your 401ks, your 403bs, your TSAs and your TSPs, right? IRAs. Nice right now while you're working and you're still contributing to them, but at some point in your 70s, Uncle Sam comes and takes a big chunk of those. His money, he's been waiting for his money all these years, Uncle Sam, and now he's going to get it from you, right? Because they were tax deferred, not tax free. Did you know that there's tax free retirement plans? How many people knew that? You can unmute and tell me. Have you ever heard of a tax free retirement plan? Anybody? Okay, Charbette says yes. Good for you, Charbette. I'm sure Sarana knows too. Sarana is very up on financial affairs. She's, by the way, if you could ever get to Charbette or Sarana's events, please do so. These are some extremely sharp ladies, right? And they know what they're doing. I'm in awe of them, to be honest. I'm honored to know them and be able to work with them. So everybody's heard of a Roth. There's a Roth IRA. There's actually Roth 401ks. I don't know if anybody knew that, right? So the way these work is you've already paid the taxes, right, on the money, and you put them into one of these Roth opportunities, either an IRA or 401k. So these are great. So unlike this 401k you have, right, that someday you have to, take a big chunk of it and give it to Uncle Sam when you're in your 70s. The Roth, you've already paid the taxes. So guess what? You're not going to pay the taxes again. So all that money that's growing in there, that's your money for retirement. I would encourage anybody that's on the call that's still at a young enough age to benefit from a retirement plan, take out a Roth. You'll really benefit from having that as a backup to all these other opportunities you have that are, a little less, they're more volatile and less stable than a Roth, right? And, Roths aren't hard to find. Any financial company will offer them. Even Mutual of Omaha offers 401ks and Roths and all the financial instruments we've talked about today, other than, say, the taxable bucket, where we don't offer CDs or anything like that. We do have IRAs, but all the kind of financial opportunities we've talked about are available through companies like mine with Mutual of Omaha. Have you ever heard of a life insurance retirement plan? Anybody? Sarana has. Sarana sells insurance. Reginald has. He sells insurance. So here's the way this works. So I don't know if everybody has insurance, life insurance on this call. Fantastic. If you don't, we need to talk right away. So life insurance, for the most part, was thought of as just buying some insurance so that if you passed away, the family could, take care of your final expenses. But it can be used for more than just your. Bye, Dr. Gorman. It was good to see you. Good luck with your conference. She's a lovely lady. You should read her book. She's got some fabulous books, by the way. So the way this works is, when you're looking for ways that you can avoid paying taxes, and who in here wouldn't want to avoid paying taxes, right? Because taxes are a big expense these days. One of the ways you do that is you take out some life insurance, and instead of it just being for your family in the event that, God forbid, something happens to you, money grows inside the policy. This is a permanent policy, right? It's not term insurance. There's a reason to buy term insurance, right? Term insurance is temporary insurance, right? You buy it when you just need 10 or 20 years of insurance. Usually it's larger face amounts because it's cheaper, but it eventually expires. It runs out. So you got to get more. You got to transition it to a permanent policy. So buy term insurance when you're young. It's very inexpensive. You can cover a big debt with it. You can cover a mortgage or a big, student loan debt, or any kind of big debt you have can be covered with term. But don't rely upon it as a permanent kind of opportunity. Permanent opportunities are permanent life insurance plans, right? There's a couple of different kinds. One's called whole life insurance. I'm sure you've heard of that. The other is universal. One of the ways you can really maximize the potential of a life insurance policy for retirement is using an indexed universal life policy. They're indexed, or at least with Mutual Omaha, to the S&P 500, right, which is the top 500 stocks, right, that are exist in America, right. One of the nice things about the S&P 500 is they're top performing, and they have a good rate of return. So if we're leveraging the rates that come off of that index, right, that means that kind of same interest rate will be put inside of the policy growth within the universal life policy that you take out. So instead of getting less than 1% in a savings account, you're now getting 6, 7, 8, up to 10% interest rate inside of a life insurance policy. And guess what? All of the money inside of a life insurance policy is tax free. Did you hear that? Tax free, not tax deferred, right? It's tax free. So you've invested some money into your life insurance policy, and say in 20 years or less, you decide that you're ready for retirement and you want to take some of the money out from the life insurance policy, because we've been growing money inside the policy just for you, right? It's part of your tax-free retirement. That money can then be borrowed from the policy and pay you some money during retirement, right? To make up for maybe some of the losses you had with those volatile accounts. Maybe your 401k took a downturn for a few years or many years. Maybe your 403b didn't perform very well. Other things like that didn't, or your standard IRAs didn't perform well either. You can use the money inside of this index universal life policy to compensate for the losses you had in those other areas of retirement planning. Or maybe you had to cash in your 401k early because something bad happened, right? You can use the money now within your universal life to make up for that loss. So if they're taken early enough out, I do a lot of illustrations and quotes for families that want to take them out on their younger members of the family, their children, grandchildren, people like that. By the time those young people are then ready for retirement, they've got large 401ks sitting inside of their life insurance policies, because they've had a high rate of growth for a long period of time for it to just sit and develop and grow and grow and grow. So the earlier you take out a life insurance policy, the better anyway, because you get a lower insurance company for the policy, right? So all of the money that's growing inside is tax free. That's benefit one. Benefit two is you have backup money in the event something happens to you. So say you're 58 years old and something has happened. You say it's a major car repair to your home, something, right? For a lot of people right now, health insurance bills, health bills are causing some bankruptcy right now because people don't have the money to cover their health bills. You could take money out of your universal life at any time you want to. You can take it out in your 30s, your 40s, your 50s, your 60s. At any time you need money, think of it as the Mutual Omaha Company grew a large bank account for you to borrow from, but it has 10 times the interest rate of what you might have with a standard bank, right? But we grew it to help you and your family both. Think of it this way. there's a dual benefit to an index universal life policy. There's a big payout to your family if God forbid, something happens to you, but there's money inside the policy that you borrow from to help your retirement and help the family in times of some kind of emergency. So there's multiple benefits to these kind of permanent policies. And again, if you take them out early enough in life and your health is good, they're not that expensive. If you wait, then it can become costly, particularly if you develop a health problem. But I wanted to show you these three buckets: the taxable bucket with your standard savings and CDs and bank accounts, then the tax deferred, which is those wonderful 401ks and 403bs that we have, and the IRAs and all those other opportunities. But again, in your 70s, Uncle Sam comes calling and you have to pay a lot of taxes on those beautiful accounts that you were growing for all those years to help your family. This is a way to add to that. You're going to have your bank accounts, you're going to have your 401ks and your 403bs. This is your way of growing your own tax-free money to benefit not just you, but your entire family. Another nice thing about these permanent policies, the rate of growth is high. I already told you that. So when you go to heaven someday and the family now it takes possession of the tax-free money, again, when the life insurance policy is paid out to your family, 100% of that money is tax-free. They don't pay any money. Say they have to liquidate one of your assets. Say when you pass away, you pass on your home, your land, your bank accounts, all the other things, your vehicles, your property that you own, and it goes to your family. And now it's just a way to raise more cash, right? All those assets, right, are taxable assets. So you've done your family a good thing by having all these assets, but when they go to liquidate them and sell them, they're going to be taxed on them. When money is conveyed from a life insurance policy, it's completely tax-free. Here's another big benefit to using life insurance for retirement and to help the family. Has anybody in this room ever heard of probate? I'm sure Sarana has, right? Okay. Probate is Charvette has too. Sure, she probably teaches classes on that. And she has people to help. Probate's a difficult process. I went through it with my husband because he didn't have a will. What do you think is the only thing that bypasses probate and gets directly to the family immediately? Life insurance money. Everything else I've described in terms of these buckets, guess what? The probate court takes it and decides who's going to get it. It's a long, painful, expensive process. So if you're trying to avoid probate problems, buy life insurance. If you're trying to convey tax rebate to your family, buy life insurance. If you're trying to supplement your retirement, buy life insurance. So I hope this has been helpful. If anybody has a quick question, we'll go ahead and do it now. Anybody have a quick question? Okay, Claire, I guess we'll move on. I put my contact information in chat. Feel free to follow up with me. And I really appreciate the opportunity to talk with you all. And God bless, and everybody have a great Memorial Day.
Wow, wow, wow. That was amazing. Thank you, Donna, so much. I'm trying to see why let me stop sharing. Yeah, that's amazing. Thank you. Okay, so you're watching Brightside Global Trade, our channel. Make sure you subscribe. And if you want to get in touch with Donna, we'll make sure that you have her contact information. We also now have a directory, and so you can go directly to the club directly to find her contact information. Make sure you set up an appointment. She can do a virtual coffee with you, or you can join her on once a month and meet her right here on our show. So thank you, thank you, thank you.